Got my eyes straight ahead, got my head in the game. With the red light on, I'm just waiting for the change. Keep my head down low.
Okay, got a few different articles I've been reading through. Listen to all these news reports which came out during the week. There's a lot of stuff that came out. Obviously we had. Well, it's been going on for a little while, but all this nonsense with Qantas. Qantas has really lost its way over the last couple of years. You could see that fella Alan Joyce was just. You could see that they were starting to screw over the little man. The people doing the work, all they were doing was just running over them, just completely running over them, trampling them down. Obviously, they had all these people that they laid off, supposedly because for the benefit of the company, so they could survive while we had the pandemic that was coming through. So obviously, what you do is all of your staff, you lay them off so you can go and get cheaper staff from other places. That's it's a great company. It's a great way to run things. It's all come out that this was actually illegal in the end. So good on them. It was a bit of good news for the workers, and I'm really glad that Qantas got the slap in the face that they needed, so that maybe they could finally wake up. Alan Joyce was pushed out a couple of months early, which was really good news. Really good news. He still managed to get his bonus, I believe. It was like 20 million or whatever it was. Just a little bonus. Hey, he did pull the company through a really hard time. Really hard time. He did oversee some illegal activity in laying off all his staff and screwed over the staff personally. Possibly did oversee taking people's money for flights that were already cancelled, but yet we'll still take your money, but because we keep that money and we may give it back to you, or we may just give you credits. So there was all those kinds of things, but hey, he still gets his bonus. The other news that came up was Daniel Andrews quit. Oh my goodness, what a piece of good news. You could feel the relief, the sigh of relief. It was just like a wave of emotion coming up from Victoria, I think. I'm driving around in my truck. I'm like, yeah. It's like, I could feel this wave coming over the nation. Dan Andrews finally moving on. He gave us all the excuses, what he wanted to say, but it was for his family. And look, there's nothing really to back this up at the moment. All I'm saying, my opinion, what I believe the real reason that Dan Andrews quit wasn't so he could go back and spend more time with his family, because he's been thinking about his family so much lately. They've been on his mind. I don't think it's that at all. I think there's very, very bitter storms coming for Victoria in general, Victorian government, the Labor government, and Victoria as a state. The amount of debt that they've got, the problems that they've got, I think there are some big storms coming for the state. I think Dan Andrews can see these things coming, and so he is getting out while he thinks in his mind that there's still a lot of love and support for him, and there is. I mean, Victorians just kept voting him in. They were like the people that are held hostage and tend to fall in love with the people that are holding them hostage. That's what it seemed like. The worse he was as an outsider, someone from Queensland, you're looking at it going, Victorians, what are you doing? I'm going to read through this article. Like I said, Financial Review, Daniel Andrews, populist legacy of division, debt, and darkness. The secret to the polarizing success of the Victorian Premier was a canny populism, despite his constant mantra about doing the right thing, not what was popular. A couple of things I really didn't know about Dan Andrews until you look back and you think, well, so he didn't do a lot of press conferences. He didn't go down the traditional route, go into the ABC and answer questions from knowledgeable reporters, people that might actually take him on for some of the things he was doing. He was always in the media, but it was always social media. He had his own way of getting the word out, and he controlled the message that went out. He did his own social media. He used the platforms brilliantly in a way, but he was never held accountable for anything because he never put himself, hardly ever put himself in that position where an intelligent reporter could come along and ask him a serious question and make him answer for the decisions he was making. Thus, we have Victoria today. Dan Andrews' shock resignation brings to an end a near decade of divisive dominance. That divisiveness was underscored when the mostly business crowd attended the Carbine Club AFL Grand Final lunch at Crown Casino, roared its approval when host Eddie Maguire announced that Dan was departing. There you go. Since his election in 2014. So obviously, so businesses, it seems like businesses really, and businesses, small and large, I think a lot of them really bore the brunt of Dan Andrews. Since his election, Andrews has led Australia's most left-wing state. I mean, left-wing. You think about it. During the pandemic, churches were shut down. Remember the pastor that was arrested because he announced on Facebook that he wasn't going to shut his church down. He was still going to open up his church, which is very biblical, very good. I think it was just take my hats off to that pastor. However, churches had to shut down because you can't sing in public. You can't go ahead and talk with each other and actually help each other. Churches shut down. However, they did have the opening of the the Pride Centre in Melbourne City. Obviously, anything Pride that could never shut down. That was allowed to keep going, and we'll have the opening. So yeah, the most left-wing state or federal government, which has combined social progressivism with a big spending, big building infrastructure program that puts a Labor government in virtual partnership with the law-breaking Victorian Construction Division of the CFMEU and its thuggish secretary, John Setka. This big spending, big building infrastructure, because with all these left-wing governments, they absolutely love to spend other people's money because it's easy to spend other people's money. It's easy to be popular and look like you're doing the right thing if you're going to spend other people's money. Just throw it all around. We how good are we? And this really was just Daniel Andrews' shtick, really, is just go out, spend lots of money because we don't have to answer to it. Like his counterpart and colleague in Western Australia, McGowan, Andrews says, burnout. Yeah, whatever. The legacy Mr. Andrews leaves behind includes his signature, but far from finished and far from funded 130 billion 90-kilometer suburban rail loop. It has never had a proper cost-benefit analysis. This analysis, or it's never been vetted by the Infrastructure Australia body. This is something that Anthony Albanese, our Prime Minister, established to assess if major projects stacked up. So it's never been assessed properly. Also left behind is the most indebted state in the nation, a gross debt pile that is forecast to blow out to 239 billion by 2026 to 2027. You come, listen, that's amazing. It gets to when we get to 2026, 2027, and they've got this kind of debt. They're what do you say? They're struggling under the pain of this debt. That his popularity, it doesn't matter how he controls the media, he is not going to be able to contain the contempt that's going to be shown towards him. This is why I think he's really getting out. He's getting out while he still thinks the going is good, while he has some kind of popularity still. I think I kind of feel sorry for this female premier that stood up because I think she has got she's bitten off more than she can chew, and this is all just going to come back on her. I don't think she's going to be able to handle it, to be honest. But anyway, we'll continue on with this. Yeah, so the 239 billion, the cost and legacy of the prolonged and harsh lockdowns Andrew imposed during the pandemic years of 2020 and 21 continue to play out amid the empty shop fronts and office floors of the Melbourne CBD. And in the $8.6 billion worth of temporary COVID-19 debt levy imposed on business payrolls and property investors in the May state budget. Albanese, our Prime Minister, whom Mr. Andrews acknowledged yesterday as a friend of 30 years, excluded actions. Because remember, this is the other thing that happened was the Albanese government announced they were going to do this inquiry into the pandemic and, see the actions, but they weren't really going to investigate. Well, they weren't really. They're just not going to investigate how the states handle things, because in reality, it's the states that were doing everything. It's the states that were doing the lockdowns and that were imposing these mandates. It's the states that did all this. The federal government, when they were under the Liberals, ScoMo, they're all saying, hey, we're not doing anything. We're not doing anything bad. We're not imposing mandates. The Australian government's not doing that. That's because it was the states that were doing it. So don't, just a bunch of lies. Anyway, keep going. Excluded actions taken unilaterally by state and territory governments from the COVID-19 inquiry. Victorians had already passed their democratic verdict on Andrew's pandemic overreach by re-electing him for a third time. That's why I can never understand why. It's like I said. Anyway, backed by the pioneering use of social media to connect with voters and bypass traditional media. Oh, this is what I was talking about before. The secret to the combative and polarizing Andrew's success was a canny populism, despite his constant mantra about doing the right thing, not what was popular. Multiple adverse findings. This is one of they're about to talk about, I think. I haven't read this part, but yeah, these adverse findings by anti-corruption integrity body. But Andrews is one of these, what do you call it? One of these leaders that, something will go wrong. Someone will come out with this adverse finding against him, and then him and his government, and then he just says, well, it's nothing to do with me. I disagree. When you see these leaders that just stand up and say, well, I don't accept those findings, and then they just move on. I don't know how they do it. They do it. I don't know how they live with themselves and do it. Realistically, they've got the spirit of a despot, and that's what they are. But also, they don't hold themselves accountable. Like I said, they don't allow themselves to be held accountable by intelligent journalism. So it's easy to do if you're not going to have if you're not going to come on board and attend interviews with people that are actually going to hold you accountable. And then Victoria kept voting him in anyway. Multiple adverse findings. Andrew's no apologies governing style that earned a reputation for getting things done. Getting things done because he just spent money that he didn't have. I think he's probably sold us down the river to China in a secret deal. That's what I think he's done to Victoria. Sold them down the river. It'll come out in a couple of years with all this debt that China owns all the debts. Oh, where are we going? That includes the 2014 election promise. Yep. And also, obviously, what happened with the Commonwealth Games, which you also knew about. Anyway, let's get off that. So Dan Andrews quits. Like I said, I don't believe for a second, because I don't believe anything that comes out of his mouth. So when he puts this excuse out that it was for the sake of his family, he's been thinking about his family, just his children, whatever. The man is a liar. The man is a despot. He had just got visions of grandeur, and he wants to leave behind. He wants to get out while he thinks he's just held in high esteem. But he knows very well that he has left behind a pile of dung for his colleagues to try and fix up, and that they will not be able to fix it up. And so obviously, the other big problem that they have in Victoria is that the opposition is such a feckless and downtrodden party. Really, they stand for nothing, stand for absolutely nothing. Look what they did to Moira Redeeming, just completely throwing her under the bus. Anyone that would stand up and speak out against things that are black and white, right and wrong, they throw them under the bus. They pander to the rainbow trans community, pander to all of that. They don't really stand on anything righteous, nothing moral. And when you don't stand on anything, when you don't stand for anything, you will fall for anything. And that's the problem with the Liberal government in Victoria at the moment. Probably the Liberal government in general, Australia wide. It's hard to find what they stand for, because they just keep trying to pander to minorities, pander to what they think is the popular decision. But they are wrong. They are wrong.
They just fuel the desire that will take me higher. I'm on fire.